it's going to get a little bit more political now because we've got the pleasure of having Joie Vawter with us. And Joie was involved with the Restore Freedom Initiative and the Recall Whitmer movement. And that's why I wanted her on board, and Joie to perhaps tell us what happened with that recall petition. I know there's also one going on in California right now for a similar reason, but she also helped with the petition to repeal the 1945 law that the governor has been using as well. And Joie's also started a new organization called Guardians of Freedom. So Joie, if you could unmute yourself and tell us about what happened with the Recall Whitmer, and why did you do that? What was the reason for wanting to do a recall petition?
Well, thanks for having me, and I'm glad we got connected through the Recall Whitmer movement. The reason we felt a need to recall our governor as the people is, I guess, for a couple of reasons. One is to make the governor informed that we, the people who elected her to limited powers, we're not happy with her. She is overrunning us, and she has no regard for us. She doesn't care about the letters we write to her. She doesn't care about any of that. She doesn't care that we protest on the Capitol. As a matter of fact, she sits there and whines like a little petulant child having a tantrum that we're abusing our rights as we, the people, going to the Capitol and assembling for redress of our government that we are constitutionally guaranteed to do. So the other way you do it is you petition and you get a recall going. So that's the other thing we did. However, in Michigan, a recall is very difficult to attain and to do successfully. The timing works against us, and the sheer amount of signatures that we must get works against us. And then, of course, the timing that we ended up being able to get everything approved and done by in Michigan worked against us weather-wise, because that put us into late fall, early winter. So the other thing that we had issues with is you can't pay for any advertising. It was very hard to be able to get anybody to accept our advertising dollars anywhere to make people aware with a public service announcement or a commercial or a Facebook advertisement, anything like that, to let people know that there was a recall Governor Whitmer movement happening and a petition for people to sign. So we were relegated to our website and word of mouth, basically. And we tried to raise funds so that we could have paid circulators, because obviously the more boots on the ground, the better position you're going to be in. We were not able to raise all of that money, which would have been, I believe, $8 million we needed to have paid circulators, in addition to the volunteers who just, for the sake of getting petitions and signatures done, we weren't able to get the paid circulators. So we were relegated to being strictly 100% grassroots movement. So the best thing I can give you is the official statement from the Recall Whitmer movement that we put out January 8th. And I'll read that to you verbatim so you guys have all the information that officially went out about it. So hello, signers, petitioners, circulators, and passionate patriots. We know you've been anxiously awaiting the final signature count. We apologize for the delays in getting you that number. As many of you know, this has been a very grassroots movement from the start, and we have relied exclusively on a tireless group of selfless volunteers and the generous donations from many gracious and motivated people and organizations. We did not have any political party backing or endless pile of money to spend. This was a movement made up of everyday citizens going above and beyond for the people of the state. There were many moving pieces all over the state, and we were relying on individuals to sacrifice time from their families or work to aid in the movement and counting of completed petitions. We want to thank all of the signers, the circulators, drivers, deliverers, chairs, donors, signing locations, and supporters of the Recall Whitmer movement. We are not shy about the fact that this was a huge undertaking. State law dictated we needed over 1.3 million valid signatures in 60 days. Given that mass gatherings, entertainment venues, and eating establishments were all shuttered by COVID-19 restrictions, the task was made even more challenging as we could not canvass large groups at one time in one space. We also found among the signatures we did receive, just over 20% of them were made invalid due to issues of incomplete forms, improper information written on the forms, or errors made by the signers or circulators. And this is a common thing. Every petition group has to just knock 20% off the top automatically. With all of that said, we did not make the initial goal. We're being completely honest, we were nowhere near close. We are disappointed to report that the number of total signatures received was less than 100,000. At present, we do not see a way forward with the current effort, but we are exploring other avenues, including a potential digital signature option, which would reset the 60-day clock. Anyone that gathered 1 or 1,000 signatures did their part, and that work is appreciated. And while the effort to recall the governor did not succeed at this moment in time, we encourage everyone to look forward and work toward finding the electing candidates that have values more in line with Michigan patriots than with Whitmer and politicians like her. As soon as we have more details, we will share them. This is a pretty volatile time in our country, but now more than ever, we need to be united in our efforts to remind the politicians that they work for us. Be sure to be signed up on our website because we never know what will happen with our social media accounts.
What is that website? Just out of
I'll give it to you 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah. Pray for our nation, pray for our great state, and stand strong. Thank you all again. God bless Michigan, the Recall Whitmer Movement team. The website is recallwhitmermovement.com. Sorry about that.
Recallwhitmermovement.com. So you mentioned that you might try this again with a digital signature for a petition. Can you even do something like that? And will you try it?
One quick question before I answer that. I'm sorry. The website's just recallwhitmer.com.
Recallwhitmer.com. Okay.
I'm used to saying movement with that all the time.
Okay, recallwhitmer.com.
Yeah. So one of our board members is looking into with a legal team to see about getting the digital signatures to be something that can be legally done. Their case is that you can legally acquire and pay for your house digitally, sign your mortgage digitally, sign your deed digitally. You can sign medical documents digitally. All of these things are legal ways, and they become legal documents, even though they've been signed digitally. They're trying to prove the case that if they put in their driver's license number and their full name and their address on the form, there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to submit a digital signature through that. So that's what they're trying to do. I don't have any news back yet about that. I just know that they're in the process of trying to get this clarified and approved.
I see that some people are raising their hands. If somebody has a question, please pull up the Q&A menu and write it in there. And Julie Day will read those questions.
I do have a question for you. It's her, Arlene Pearson, and her question is, why would the GOP leaders waste their time and other money to perform a recall effort of Governor Whitmer with only 1 year left in her administration and possibly a move into the vice chair position of the DNC?
I think it's 2 years left for.
Okay. Yep. Well, all right. Good.
I'm not reading it. I'm just saying that's what's left. So.
Okay. The question said 1 year. Sorry. But.
So I don't know if that's necessarily a question for me, since she's addressing why would the GOP.
Yeah, it did say, yeah, why.
Yeah, I'd like to make it clear that Joey's was not working with the GOP. She's not part of the GOP. She is in a totally grassroots movement to recall the governor, and it has nothing to do with NORC. We just are bringing her forward because our goal at NORC is to help educate and inform people what's going on. And this is a very important thing. So Joey, I guess the question is, with just 2 years left, is it worth the trouble to try to recall the governor?
As somebody who believes in our constitutional freedoms and how the Constitution is set up to protect our God-given inalienable freedoms that are being stomped on left and right by a governor who does not seem to understand that when the Michigan Supreme Court has come down and said, you know, your use of 1945 was unconstitutional, anything that you put forth under the 1945 statute, and even she was told that she couldn't use the 1976 EPA anymore either because she abused it. And anything that she put down under that was also rendered unconstitutional. That she just thinks that she's above everything. Yes, our businesses cannot continue. We cannot continue to have our livelihoods taken away from us without any recompense or compensation that would match what we are able to make and live on if we are allowed to go to work. And pardon me, I don't even want to say allowed. That's just our right to be able to do that. So by protecting our right to be able to work, to make our money, to be able to take care of ourselves and our families and our animals, whatever we need to take care of, we have the right to work, to get the money, to pursue our, in pursuit of our happiness and our livelihoods. 2 years is way too long to wait. 1 minute, in my opinion, is way too long to wait. So yes, any effort to stop this terrible tyrannical behavior of somebody who does not understand the oath that she took to be in office, which was an oath to uphold the federal and state constitutions, nothing else. That was it. That's her oath. Yeah, anything to stop her as far as legal means go, whether it's redressing her, whether it's petitioning to have her taken, removed from the office by we the people through a recall, pressuring our GOP to do an impeachment if, you know, whatever it is, however, whatever legal means we have to do, we need to attack and pursue. Absolutely. I don't know.
Joey, it was interesting. It came out in the news today that in the state of New York, that Governor Cuomo had understated the amount of deaths in nursing homes by 50%. And I'm wondering if that sort of thing has been going on in Michigan, because it looks like, from what I've been reading, that 30% of all the reported COVID deaths have taken place in the nursing homes, and how much of that was because of the governor's orders that forced infected people to be put into those nursing homes. Do you have any information on that? Is that at all part of your reason for doing this?
I don't have the current stats on that because honestly, I've been looking at some other things lately, but I will tell you our language was really on her choices on Executive Order 2020-50, I believe it was, for requiring the nursing homes to make COVID areas when they were below 80% capacity, and to have to take patients that were COVID positive and put them in there. How well relegated those COVID-19 areas were, how separated they were. I've heard some horrific things about that. I have heard that it wasn't done properly. Obviously, the results are showing that it most likely was not done properly. And she failed to protect our most vulnerable population. And so, yeah, so our language, because if we were to get the signatures we needed in May would be the special election, and people are going to remember that she was responsible for essentially murdering our senior citizens through this senior home. They're not going to necessarily remember the bars and the restaurants or movie theaters being closed because unfortunately we have short-term memory, but they're going to remember the loss of their family member and their loved one in May.
And it also seems like it's more than a coincidence that it's only these Democrat governors who during the election were shutting down the bars, the restaurants, and running up deaths in nursing homes, just to come up with statistics, which would appear they were trying to do that to help the Biden campaign. And it just seems like a logical conclusion to me. And I don't know if, because it just seems a little bit more than a coincidence that these governors are now opening up their bars and restaurants starting, I think, the beginning of February, whereas the numbers with the pandemic don't seem to have really changed enough to justify that based on their logic for closing it down, other than it seemed political, and that in the states that had Republican governors that they were open and not necessarily having any consequence from that. So it just seems like more than a coincidence. Julie, any more questions here
Actually,
for Joey?
Miss Arlene has asked another question, was about, do you know what happened to the stand-up? Michigan 5,000 signatures were obtained. I heard that they were declared inefficient.
I do not have official information from Stand Up Michigan about that. I believe that Garrett or somebody had, or Ron or Tammy, I'm sure have done a live on it. I just, like I said, I've been really wrapped up in something else that my attention has right now. But I will tell you that they did get over 500,000 signatures. And I will tell you that the Secretary of State has felt she does not have to do her duty of counting those signatures and getting them verified. And I will tell you that they did launch a lawsuit against Secretary of State Benson for that, to make her have to count the signatures. Now, the outcome of that, I do not know. I don't have that information to legitimately give to you, so I can't speak any further to that.
All right, wonderful. All right.
Any other questions, Julie?
Well, let's see. Let's see here. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. Let's see. We've got comments.
I'd like to say to people that are in the participants, if you have questions, go down to the Q&A area. I've got all your cameras and microphones are muted. Go to the Q&A area for questions and Julie will read them. And also, if you're an elected official or a candidate, just identify yourself in the chat area and Julie's monitoring that as well. Any other questions, Julie, for Joey?
Yep, sorry. Well, they're kind of not on the subject that we're talking about. So I'm just kind of scrolling down. Let's see here. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, no. Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry. Did anyone, all right, this is from a Janet Delvecchio. And do you need anyone to do researches on the number of nursing homes in Michigan that were forced to take COVID-19 infected residents?
Janet, yes, actually. I would love for you to contact me personally. I do need things like that. And I don't know if this would allow for a good segue, Matt, into the next thing I wanted to talk about, but I don't want to jump to it without.
Go ahead. Unless there's other questions related to this, Julie. Joey, I know, because I wanted to,
in case there is.
I wanted to ask you what the Guardian of Freedom is. Is that your next?
Yeah, Guardians of Freedom Michigan is my new project that I'm working on. That is what's taking up all of my time. That is why I'm not so up to date on like Stand Up Michigan and anything new from Recall Whitmer, but nothing new has been put out from Recall Whitmer. They're still just working on getting the digital signatures. So I started Guardians of Freedom. We're literally brand new. We launched January 1st with our articles of incorporation for nonprofit. And I got my EIN number for the group today. So we are really brand new. But we are having our 5th meeting today all over Michigan. We have 7 different locations going on. And so I just wanted to basically tell you guys about the group via our invite letter that I've written up. So you kind of get an idea. So we're on a path Guardians of Freedom Michigan is on a path to legally stop our elected officials from trampling on our God-given and constitutionally protected freedoms in the name of saving lives. I personally, like many of you that are on here tonight, have been heavily involved in volunteering for petitions in hopes of getting the signatures needed to require our legislature to take some action or get a proposal on the ballot for Michiganders to vote on. Those petitions seem like a great way to do things. However, we've seen that it's not necessarily the case. Restore Freedom Initiative did not get all the signatures needed, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll get to try again, because I do believe in that petition that it will, what it will do will benefit the people of Michigan greatly. Repeal 1945, like I said, got the signatures, but the Secretary of State's just sitting on them and has now had to be sued. The Michigan Supreme Court thankfully did rule that the 1945 EPA is unconstitutional and it can never be used again. Nonetheless, we see that the Secretary of State has no intention of doing her job. And the Republican legislature has been kind of quiet, not as loud as we the people have expected them to be. They haven't responded to the letters that we've written them how we want or hoped for. Instead, you're getting, what is it called? Like written up standard response letters. So we've called and written them to no avail. And we've protested at the Capitol several times to no avail. So now we did the recall Whitmer and that didn't work out either. So this brings me to what my research has shown me while looking all around our country to see what other citizens and other states are doing that are in a similar situation to us. I found our neighbors in Ohio. They're having some actual success in fighting back legally. A handful of citizens have formed the group Ohio Stands Up, and you can look at them, ohiostandsup.org. And they formed this in April 2020. They decided to go straight into legal battle. They are suing their elected officials and any agencies that are complicit with the unconstitutional mandates thrusted upon them by their governor. Since July, they raised over $100,000 to fund this legal battle and hired a couple of excellent attorneys to take the case. August 2020, they filed their lawsuit. They are suing, I already said that. So they are suing by attacking the emergency declaration as a whole and conducting a forensic analysis to support this. So Janet, that's why I will need you. It was
Very
2
good.
weeks ago.
So you're saying Guardians of Freedom is just starting, and what would you say is, if you can just boil all that down
Sure.
to something very simple, what the main purpose is of Guardians and Freedom and what you are looking to achieve? Just if you can just boil it down without reading the rest of that statement.
So we are basically a social welfare group for the people. We will be educating people on their constitutional freedoms, how to protect them and how to exercise their constitutional freedoms. We'll be advocating on behalf of the people also under a 501c4. We will be vetting candidates and politicians and making sure that they are willing to uphold their Constitution oath that they take. And if they're not, then we are going to put forth candidates that will.
So would you call yourself a PAC?
No, not necessarily. We're a social welfare group because
Are you collecting donations or anything like that?
we are collecting donations to fund our educating and our advocating and a little bit of the lobbying, yes. But the lobbying would only be during the election years. Our advocating and educating will be all the time.
Well, very good. I think we can work with you because that is also our main goal at the North Oakland Republican Club is to educate and inform people, get them active and involved. And so maybe we can work together on a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Julie, are there any other questions here?
No, I think we can move on.